Night after night, people across the world report the same impossible experience. A voice calling their name from an empty room, a shadow standing beside the bed at 3 a.m., footsteps in a house with no one inside, and sometimes a final goodbye from someone who already died. For thousands of years, humanity has asked the same terrifying question. What if death is not the end? What if something still exists just beyond what we can see? Because almost every civilization in history believed in one disturbing idea: a veil, a hidden boundary separating the living from the dead. And according to ancient legends, near-death survivors, priests, scientists, and grieving families, that veil may not be as strong as we think. Tonight, we step into one of the oldest mysteries ever known to mankind: the veil between the living and the dead. The idea appears everywhere: ancient Egypt, medieval Europe, Japanese folklore, Native American traditions. Different cultures, different centuries, yet somehow the same terrifying concept: a thin, invisible barrier dividing two worlds, one filled with the living, the other with those who never truly left. The ancient Egyptians believed the soul continued its journey after death, but only if rituals were performed correctly. Priests spent entire lifetimes preparing bodies for the afterlife. Massive pyramids were not just tombs, they were gateways. In medieval Europe, people feared certain nights of the year when the boundary between worlds became weak, especially during Halloween. Villagers wore masks, lit fires, whispered prayers, not for celebration, for protection, because they believed the dead could walk among the living. And then there were the shamans, men and women who claimed they could cross the veil willingly. Some entered trances, others used isolation deep within caves or forests. Many returned describing the same thing: a place without time, a place filled with voices, a place that felt horrifyingly real. But myths alone are not what make this mystery disturbing. It's the modern stories. Stories from ordinary people, people with nothing to gain, people who swear they experienced something impossible. Take the phenomenon known as crisis apparitions. A person suddenly sees a loved one standing before them, sometimes silent, sometimes smiling, and moments later, they receive a phone call confirming that person had just died. Cases like this have been documented for centuries. Doctors, soldiers, parents, children, different backgrounds, different countries, yet the stories remain eerily similar. One woman claimed her deceased husband appeared at the foot of her bed the exact moment his plane crashed thousands of miles away. Another man reported hearing his mother's voice whispered goodbye moments before learning she had died in her sleep. Coincidence? Grief? Or evidence that consciousness survives longer than we understand? The deeper researchers looked into these experiences, the stranger they became. Then came near-death experiences, and suddenly science itself entered the mystery. Patients declared clinically dead for minutes described leaving their bodies, watching doctors work from above, traveling through darkness, seeing an intense light, feeling overwhelming peace, and sometimes encountering dead relatives waiting for them. At first, scientists dismissed these stories as hallucinations caused by trauma or oxygen loss, but one problem kept appearing. Patients described details they should not have seen: objects hidden in rooms, conversations between doctors, specific events occurring while their brains showed little or no activity. One surgeon described a patient accurately recalling the exact tools used during an emergency operation while supposedly unconscious. Another patient described floating over the hospital and seeing a shoe on a rooftop window ledge outside. Later, the shoe was found exactly described. These stories spread rapidly, and they terrified many scientists, because if consciousness can exist outside the brain,
then death may not mean what we think it means.
But not all experiences beyond the veil are peaceful. Some are deeply disturbing. Sleep paralysis. For centuries, people described waking up unable to move while a dark figure stood nearby watching them. Modern medicine explains this as a neurological event between sleeping and waking, but the descriptions remain horrifyingly consistent across cultures. A shadowy presence, pressure on the chest, intense fear, and glowing eyes staring from the darkness. In medieval Europe, they called it a demon. In Japan, a spirit. In the Middle East, a jinn. Today, millions still experience it. And many victims insist the terror feels far too real to be a dream. Some even report the same figure, the Hat Man, a tall shadow wearing a wide-brimmed hat, silent, motionless, watching. People who have never met each other describe him identically. Why? No one knows. Then there are haunted places. Locations where something feels wrong the moment you enter. Abandoned hospitals, ancient battlefields, forgotten prisons, places soaked in suffering. Researchers using electromagnetic sensors, thermal cameras, and audio equipment have captured sounds with no visible source. Whispers, breathing, voices speaking names. Some recordings contain responses to direct questions. Others capture screams. And perhaps the most disturbing phenomenon, EVP, static recordings where human voices appear from nowhere. Many are impossible to verify. Some are obvious hoaxes, but a few still cannot be explained. One investigator asked out loud, "Is anyone here with us?" Seconds later, playback revealed a whisper. Yes, the room had been empty, at least supposedly. Yet the true horror may not be ghosts. It may be consciousness itself, because modern neuroscience still cannot fully explain what consciousness actually is. Why are we aware? What creates the feeling of self? Why does electrical activity inside the brain produce memory, fear, love, identity? Some physicists believe consciousness may not originate entirely within the brain at all. Instead, the brain could act more like a receiver, a filter, a bridge. If that idea is true, then death may simply be the shutting down of the receiver while consciousness continues elsewhere. A terrifying possibility. And strangely, some ancient religions described exactly this thousands of years ago. Then came one of the darkest experiments ever conducted. In the 1970s, several researchers attempted to recreate hauntings artificially. Using infrasound, low-frequency vibrations humans cannot consciously hear. The results were chilling. Subjects reported feelings of dread, paranoia, shadow figures, the sensation of being watched. Some even claimed they encountered spirits. Scientists realized certain frequencies could trigger experiences eerily similar to hauntings. But instead of solving the mystery, it created another question. What if some hauntings are psychological, while others are something else entirely? And how would we know the difference?
Across history, there are moments where entire groups witnessed impossible events together. Not one person, hundreds, sometimes thousands. In 1917, during the Miracle of the Sun, crowds reported seeing strange lights and movements in the sky after children claimed they had spoken with heavenly beings. Some witnesses described overwhelming feelings of peace. Others fainted in terror. Even journalists reported witnessing something unusual. To believers, it was proof of another realm touching ours. To skeptics, mass hysteria. But mass hallucinations are extremely rare, and that uncertainty keeps the mystery alive. There is also the terrifying phenomenon of terminal lucidity. Patients suffering from severe dementia or brain damage suddenly regain complete mental clarity moments before death. People unable to recognize family members for years suddenly speak normally. They remember names, tell stories, say goodbye, and then they die. Doctors still struggle to explain it. How can a damaged brain suddenly restore memories and personality moments before shutting down forever? Some believe it is the brain's final surge of energy. Others fear it may represent something leaving the body itself, a final moment where the veil briefly opens. Ancient cultures believed certain places were thinner than others. Crossroads, cemeteries, deep forests, caves, mirrors at night. Even today, paranormal investigators speak of thin places, locations where reality feels distorted, where people report hearing voices, seeing figures, feeling overwhelming sadness or fear. One abandoned asylum in Europe became infamous after visitors repeatedly reported hearing crying from empty hallways. Security cameras captured doors moving on their own. Visitors described sudden nausea and panic. One night guard quit after claiming he saw patients standing silently at the ends of corridors. The building had been abandoned for decades. But perhaps the most disturbing stories come from grieving families, because many people report signs after loved ones die. A familiar perfume appearing in an empty room, clocks stopping at the exact moment of death, phones ringing from disconnected numbers, dreams that feel more real than reality itself. Skeptics call it psychological coping, and perhaps sometimes it is, but certain cases remain difficult to dismiss. A mother reported finding handwritten notes appearing in her dead son's bedroom. Another family received voicemail static containing a faint voice identical to their deceased grandfather. These stories sound impossible until they happen to someone you know, and that is what makes this mystery so powerful. Almost everyone eventually experiences loss. Death touches every human life, every culture, every family, and in moments of grief, people begin searching for signs, for proof, for anything suggesting the people they loved are not truly gone. Perhaps that emotional desperation creates illusions, or perhaps grief sharpens human perception in ways we do not understand, because the line between psychology and the paranormal has always been dangerously thin. But there is one theory more terrifying than all the others. What if the veil exists for a reason? Ancient myths often warned against disturbing the dead, against trying to communicate, against opening doors that should remain closed. From the Greek underworld to forbidden rituals in medieval texts, one message repeats constantly: some knowledge comes with a price. Many paranormal investigators eventually abandon their work after claiming experiences followed them home. Nightmares, shadow figures, voices. Some develop intense paranoia, others become obsessed. A few vanish from public life entirely. Coincidence? Psychological damage? Or did they truly encounter something beyond understanding? No one can say for certain.
There are stories hidden deep within religious archives about monks who sealed rooms after rituals went wrong. Ancient manuscripts describing entities pretending to be dead relatives. Not spirits of the deceased, but something else. Something intelligent. Something deceptive. This idea appears repeatedly throughout history, that not every voice from beyond the veil should be trusted. And suddenly, the mystery becomes much darker. Because if another realm exists, what else might exist within it? Perhaps that is why humans fear darkness instinctively, why empty hallways feel threatening at night, why silence itself can feel alive. Deep within the human mind may exist an ancient survival instinct, a warning carried across generations, an instinct whispering that we are never entirely alone. Even now,
Millions claim to have seen things science cannot explain. Some are lying, some are mistaken, but not all of them. That uncertainty is where fear truly lives. And maybe the most haunting possibility is this: the veil between the living and the dead may not be a wall, it may be a mirror, a reflection reminding humanity of its own fragile existence. Because every person watching this video is moving to the same destination. Every heartbeat, every passing year, every breath, closer to the unknown. And despite all our technology, all our science, all our intelligence, humanity still cannot answer the oldest question ever asked: what happens after death? Maybe nothing, maybe peace, or maybe something waits on the other side of the veil, watching, listening, patiently waiting for every one of us to arrive. And tonight, when the lights go out and the room becomes silent, you may begin to wonder something terrifying. If the dead truly are gone, then who whispered your name in the dark?